I like materials that have a pre-existence. Somewhere about the time I started teaching, I started kind of getting into making my own art again, and that's where I started doing the board paintings, and kind of ended up doing those for a couple decades. You know, I worked with 2x4s a lot because it was a basic board. You know, it's the basic stud, you know, to build something.
I've always looked at that as some sort of a rescue, where he's rescued that surface, and that surface, because it's not the high grade, #1 grade 2x4.
We drive by and see things on people's curbs, and we back up and pick it up and load it in our car. It's like wood they're getting rid of.
Sometimes he would literally stop the car while we were driving to like hop down onto the beach if he saw a piece of wood that he really liked, and then he'd take that home and he'd paint it.
Again, I think Stuart's the kind of person that nothing gets thrown away ever. Everything has a repurposed meaning, so I think for me it's like I'm used to him doing that type of thing now, so I don't question it.
It's the construction grade. There's knot holes, and there's chunks taken out, and there's end grain, and there's maybe a little bit of bark.
Part of it is also the wood grain itself. You know, I don't know what I'm going to paint when I start, but you know, part of it is just seeing what's happening in the wood grain, and as I keep applying paint and layering. Each board kind of becomes a window into this sequential art thing. We have imagery, memories in our head, and we put those together in odd, strange ways, and we create art out of that. My belief is that if you can take and draw a three-dimensional situation and put it on a two-dimensional picture plane, that you can draw anything.
He gets kids to think about what they're seeing and to recreating in so many different ways, all around the same concept of observing what they're seeing, processing it, and then finding different ways to recreate it. Again, it's all about that visual thinking. It's that same kind of concept that he applies to his own art. Finding these old wood pieces and sort of repurposing them for the purposes of art.
Stuart's work has involved more almost a stream of consciousness approach, where the pieces on the 2x4s and how the grain works into the paint, and where one idea leads to another and leads to another, and really invent some sort of visual happening that the viewer could bring a narrative into.
I would say that every piece of art that he makes is entirely out of something that he is immensely passionate about. But he bends it on the cartoony, more familiar parts of his mind.
I say that he always has a little bit of a cartoon feature to it.
There's a playfulness in his work that I think always comes through. It's just the way he renders certain forms. There's that slight bit of humor. There's a little bit of poking fun, I think, at how things are made and how he defines shapes and draws figures, whether they're little animals or little crazy faces.
So when I see the wood grain, I like, oh, this looks kind of like this, and it's fun to then try and tweak it, you know, to bring those skills in, I've accumulated, but to bring them in and to make something that starts with wood grain to be something that somebody else would recognize.
I see a lot of magical things in his paintings, so I think it's fun to see the type of things that he puts together, a reality.
Made by a real person in the real world and everything, but it sort of suggests this other worldly kind of thing. You know, I'm trying to get at something that's kind of beyond our ordinary experience. You know, I guess it's a place I kind of like to live in a lot of ways. I mean, I love living in the real world and everything.
He just sees the world differently, I think, than most people. I mean, he appreciates a lot of, he appreciates everything. He appreciates the beauty in nature, the day, I mean, he just sees beauty and awe and wonder in everything that exists, where I think what we see as everyday things and we kind of pass by, he always seems in tune to it a little bit more.
He's having fun. You can see that. The way he either assembles or renders a form. He's having fun.
I like the idea of making something that nobody else makes. I feel like I'm doing something that I've seen enough art to know this is different. You know, that I'm doing something that's unique to myself.